Have you ever stopped to ask yourself, why does the middle class struggle to afford rent in this country? The land of the free, the home of the brave, a place where dreams are said to come true. Yet there is an unseen battle that rages on, hidden beneath the surface of the American dream. It's a battle that the middle class wages every day, grappling with a crisis that's been years in the making. This is the rent crisis, a crisis that has turned the basic human need for shelter into a struggle for survival. It's a crisis that's been quietly brewing, far from the prying eyes of the media and the public, slowly but surely tightening its grip on the heart of America. The middle class, once the backbone of our society, now finds itself caught in the crosshairs, battling against an adversary that is as relentless as it is ruthless. The adversary? The ever-widening gap between income and rent prices. In this grand scheme of things, the middle class is an underdog, a David facing a Goliath. Every day they go to work, they earn their paychecks, they do their best to make ends meet. But the bitter truth is their hard-earned income is just not keeping up with the soaring rent prices. Once upon a time, the middle class was synonymous with stability and prosperity. Today, it's synonymous with struggle and uncertainty. The dream of owning a home once within their grasp now seems like a distant mirage, fading further into the horizon with each passing day. But why is this happening? Why is the middle class, the very heart of our society, being squeezed to the brink? These are the questions we need to ask, the truths we need to uncover. This isn't just about an economic crisis, it's about the unseen battle being fought every day by millions of hardworking Americans. It's about the struggle for dignity, for security, for a chance to build a better life. This isn't just a crisis, it's an unseen battle, being fought every day by millions. What do the numbers tell us about this unseen battle? When we delve into the statistics, the picture they paint is quite stark. Let's start with a basic fact. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the median income for the middle class has been relatively stagnant over the past decade. Yet during the same period, the median rent has skyrocketed, increasing by nearly 50%. This means a larger chunk of the middle class income is being eaten up by rent. Now imagine this. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development defines cost-burdened households as those spending more than 30% of their income on housing. Today, a staggering half of all middle-class families fall into this category. That's right, 1 in 2 middle-class households are spending a significant portion of their income just to keep a roof over their heads. But it doesn't stop there. Over the past decade, the number of severely cost-burdened households, those spending more than half of their income on housing, has also risen dramatically. Today, 1 in 4 middle-class families are in this precarious position. That's a quarter of the middle class living on the edge, struggling to balance the cost of housing with other basic necessities like food, healthcare, and education. What's more, these numbers have been on a steady upward trajectory, showing no signs of slowing down. In the past 5 years alone, the number of cost-burdened households has increased by 10%. That's millions of families who have been pushed into the cost-burden category in just half a decade. The cold, hard numbers reveal a crisis that is growing in magnitude with each passing year. The middle class, once the backbone of the American economy, is being squeezed more and more by the escalating cost of rent. This unseen battle is not just about housing. It's about the stability and security of millions of families. The numbers show the crisis is real and it's getting worse. Meet Jane Doe, a middle-class worker in New York City. Jane is a dedicated professional, spending her days working in a bustling office, and her evenings navigating the vibrant labyrinth of the city that never sleeps. She's one of the countless faces that make up the heart of the Big Apple. But behind the hustle and bustle, Jane carries a burden that many other middle-class Americans bear: the struggle to afford her rent. Jane has a steady job. She's not living paycheck to paycheck, but she's not exactly swimming in wealth either. Every month, a large chunk of her income goes towards paying rent for her small apartment in the city. The cost of living in New York is high, and Jane finds herself constantly juggling her finances to keep a roof over her head, while also trying to cover other necessary expenses like groceries, utilities, and transportation. Despite her best efforts, Jane often finds herself at the end of the month staring at her bank account balance with a sinking feeling in her stomach. The numbers don't add up. The rent is too high and her paycheck, though steady, is not enough. But Jane is not alone in this struggle. She is one of millions of middle-class Americans who are caught in the grip of the rent crisis. Like Jane, they work hard, they pay their taxes, they contribute to their communities, yet they are constantly battling to make ends meet. The dream of owning their own home seems increasingly out of reach as they pour more and more of their hard-earned wages into the seemingly bottomless pit of rent payments. This is the unseen battle of America's middle class. It's a struggle that is quietly waged in cities and towns across the country. It's a struggle that is often overlooked as it takes place behind closed doors, away from the public eye. Jane's story is not unique. It's a reflection of a broader crisis. A crisis that needs to be addressed, a crisis that needs to be seen, a crisis that needs to be understood. For Jane, and for the countless others who share her struggle, the battle continues. Now let's turn to John Smith, a father of 3 in San Francisco. John is your everyday hero. He wakes up at the crack of dawn, puts on his work boots, and heads out to his job as a construction worker. His hands are rough from the years of manual labor, but he takes pride in his work, and why wouldn't he? Every nail he hammers, every wall he builds is all for his family. But as the sun sets and he returns home, that's when the other battle begins. The unseen one. The one that millions of middle-class Americans like John are fighting every day. The fight to keep a roof over their family's head. You see, John lives in one of the most expensive cities in the world. The cost of living is high and the price of rent, even higher. Each month, a large chunk of John's paycheck goes towards the rent for their modest 2-bedroom apartment. And every year that rent climbs higher, like a relentless tide. To keep up with these soaring costs, John has had to make sacrifices. Luxuries like eating out and vacations are a distant memory. He's even had to dip into his children's college funds. He's not proud of it, but he does what he has to do. Because at the end of the day, it's not about him. It's about ensuring his children have a safe place to call home. And yet, despite the sacrifices, the stress, the sleepless nights, John carries on. He fights his unseen battle with quiet dignity, because he knows he's not alone. He knows that there are countless others like him enduring the same struggles, making the same sacrifices. John's story is a testament to the resilience of the American middle class, but it's also a stark reminder of a crisis that's been simmering under the surface, a crisis that's forcing families to choose between necessities and a place to live. John's battle is one being fought by families all across America. What's causing this crisis? Why is the middle class suffering? These are the questions that we need to address to truly grasp the gravity of America's middle-class rent crisis. The root causes of this crisis are multifaceted and complex, but let's break them down into 3 main culprits. First, we have stagnant wages. It seems like a paradox, doesn't it? We're living in an era of technological advancement and economic growth, yet the average wage for middle-class Americans has barely budged in decades. It's like being stuck in a financial time warp, where everything around you advances, but your paycheck doesn't. Secondly, the high cost of living is a significant factor. Everything from groceries to gas prices, healthcare, and education is on the rise. It feels as if the value of the dollar is shrinking, doesn't it? The cost of living is like an invisible hand, steadily pushing the middle class down the economic ladder. And finally, the lack of affordable housing. It's a simple equation of supply and demand. There's a high demand for affordable housing, but the supply is woefully inadequate. Developers are more interested in building luxury condos and high-end apartments that yield higher profits, leaving the middle class struggling to find homes within their budget. It's like being thirsty in a desert, where the only water available is priced like liquid gold. So, there you have it. Stagnant wages, a high cost of living, and a lack of affordable housing are the 3 main culprits behind the middle-class rent crisis. They're like the 3 horsemen of a financial apocalypse, driving the middle class into a corner. But understanding these causes isn't just about pointing fingers or playing the blame game. No, it's about gaining a clear perspective on the crisis. It's about identifying the problems so that we can start working on the solutions. Understanding the causes is the first step towards finding solutions. And that's exactly what we'll be doing in the next part of this video. So, stay tuned. What can we do to turn the tide in this unseen battle? This is the question on everyone's lips, and rightly so. The rent crisis that America's middle class is grappling with is a complex one, but it's not without potential solutions. Let's start with policy changes. Governments at all levels can play a pivotal role in easing this crisis. For instance, housing policies could be modified to incentivize developers to build more affordable housing units. This could involve offering tax breaks or subsidies to those who construct properties meant for middle-income renters. Then there's the option of rent control laws. By capping how much landlords can increase rent each year, we could prevent the rapid price hikes that often push middle-class families out of their homes. However, this solution must be implemented with care, as overly strict rent control can discourage property owners from maintaining their units. Next, we should consider increased wages. The stagnation of middle-class wages in the face of rising living costs is a significant contributor to the rent crisis. If companies commit to paying their employees a living wage, this could make rent more affordable for many families. Also, let's not forget the role of education. By equipping people with financial literacy skills, we can help them manage their money more effectively and navigate the rental market with confidence. Additionally, the creation of more affordable housing options is crucial. This could involve building smaller, more efficient homes, or even converting unused commercial space into residential units. In an era where remote work is becoming the norm, there are many unused office buildings that could be repurposed in this way. In the end, the rent crisis is a multifaceted issue that demands a multifaceted response. It's not about finding a single magic bullet, but rather about implementing a range of solutions that together can make a significant difference. The solutions are there, but they require action. And if we can muster the collective will to take that action, we can turn the tide in this unseen battle and ensure that the American dream is accessible to all. The middle class is the backbone of America, and it's time we stand up for it. As we've explored in this video, the rent crisis is a battle often unseen, but it's one that affects millions. It's not just about numbers or case studies, it's about real people, real families, struggling to keep a roof over their heads. The power to affect change lies in your hands. Get involved, advocate for affordable housing policies, push for rent control laws, cast your vote for leaders who prioritize the welfare of the middle class. Use your voice to raise awareness about this crisis. Share this video with friends, family, and on social media. Let's make this unseen battle seen. This isn't just about changing the narrative, it's about changing lives. It's about ensuring that the backbone of our nation remains strong and resilient. Together we can turn the tide in this unseen battle. The middle class deserves no less.